Hello, everyone. This is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate and Remax Realtron Realty Inc. Here with Ali from the Home Investors team, along with Remax. Ali, I like your dress shirt today. Looking good in pink.
It's salmon.
Sorry?
Salmon.
Salmon? You know, I'm not good with colors. Like when I'm with my
I don't know
girlfriend,
what it
she's
is.
way better with colors. She'll look at, to me, it's a blue, but it's like aquamarine,
Oh, like that.
yeah, like
I have no
pearl
idea.
blue, sky blue. To me, is it blue, red, green, black, white?
That's blue's blue. I don't care if the difference.
Yeah, well, this is salmon.
No,
But
it's pink. I don't give a shit. Pink
we're
salmon.
we're here with another podcast. A lot to discuss in this podcast. This is being recorded on Friday, the 4th. So, but by the time you see it, it's probably the news will be obviously relevant still. So let's start with the latest market stats that were released
Okay.
for the GTA wide for the month of August, year 2020. Now, before we get into these stats, obviously, I always preface this. This is not, this is a year-over-year change, right? Or stats. This is comparing the month of August of 2020 to the month of August 2019. These stats are not as if it's statistics from 2019 to 2020, right? So just keep that in mind, right? So if we say a certain number of houses were sold and a percentage increase or a percentage increase in listings here and there, it's compared to the same month last year. It's not a trend from the same month last year, right? So keep that in mind. That's often a point of confusion for a lot of people, I would say.
Agreed. But let's get into the numbers.
Okay. So a 20% increase in prices, correct?
Which is substantial. That's quite a big jump. Yeah. So to put that into numbers, August of 2019, the average price was $792,000. And this year, the average price is $951,000. Now, that's a pretty big jump. It's even a bigger jump to last month, if I'm not mistaken, where the average price was about $941, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check that.
Yeah. So if I recall the numbers correctly,
$943, yeah, last month in July.
Yeah. So a 20% increase, I believe it's like 20 point whatever 5%. It's not just that's not the only increase. Another major key takeaway that I noticed was days on the market was low. It went from 36 days on the market in August 2019 to 24 days on the market. Now, I actually want to touch on that stat in a bit. I don't know if I should do it now or not.
Sure.
But before I do, I don't know why I asked you if I wasn't going to do it anyway.
You just got to ask for permission.
But before I do, though, another stat that I jumped out to me was the 40% increase in total residential listings.
Transactions, yeah.
Or rather transactions, correct.
August last year was 7,600 transactions. This August, 10,775. So that's pretty much like a 3,000. That's 3,000 transactions.
I'm correct
more.
to say 40%, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So two things on this stat and the other stat, not the first one we talked about, which was the 20% increase. So let me start with the days on the market. And what I'm about to say also does apply to the days on the market stat, but also lightly to the transaction stat. These numbers in of themselves don't really tell us much about the health of the market, right? So take days on the market, for example, right? From an outsider's perspective, you would assume, not just within real estate, but any other marketplace for goods, so any other commodity. So real estate, our commodity is what? Property, real property. Other markets, it might be silver, fish, whatever it may be. When it takes you on average less days to sell and move your property, your inventory, you would assume, well, that's a good sign. It means there is high demand for the inventory, whatever the inventory is, the goods. There is it's a healthy, vibrant, and strong market, right? So if it only takes you 5 days on average to sell your parcel of fish or whatever it may be, it means the demand for fish.
Why don't we just stick to real estate?
Well, I'm just saying this applies outside of real estate too, but let's go real estate. If it takes you 5 days on average to sell your house, that means that's a very strong market, which probably, if we're using the 5 years example, yeah, it really is. But So right now we're working with a number of 24 days. 24, but this is what you have to keep in mind. That's wrong. You can assume that less days on the market equals to a stronger, healthier market if you use that figure in conjunction and in combination with other figures that lead you to believe that and down the right path. But that number in of itself can be misleading because we can have a situation where it's not 24 days on the market, but the average is 35 days to 40 days. What most likely could also be the case in that situation means that sellers are being fickle. It's not that there's not high demand for housing. It's just homeowners are bargaining back and forth. Some homeowners don't want to sell at a certain price. They're nickel and diming. They're really after that perfect price. They're not willing to budge. So just the general note is that higher days in the market typically can and does mean that the market's slower, but that's not the case all the time. Like if you have a property that's been on the market for 40 days, once again, most likely it means that they have trouble moving from it and moving it, but it can also mean that the seller has high standards and is really bargaining back and forth and holding strong to his perfect price or whatever he might want to sell it at, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I do agree with like what you're trying to say. However, in just looking at averages, lower days on market does mean the market is moving fast and that there is high demand for properties. If you're going to isolate individual properties, like there's some that still sell for full asking price, but they have been on the market for 30, 40, 50 days, which is higher than the average days on market. When you isolate individual properties like that, then yes, because some properties, although they're priced right, it really takes, a certain specific buyer for that property. So, for example, I'll say that luxury properties, 2 million plus, are not selling in 17 days. For the most part, depending on the area as well. If you're in Toronto, like in Lawrence Park or any of these places where properties are listed at $2 million, first of all, it's probably already underpriced, so that will sell for very quickly, above asking in a short period of time. Even a $3 million property in that area, $4 million, I don't have the average prices off the top of my head, but luxury properties like that won't sell as fast. However, they will still probably sell close to asking or at asking price because the negotiations there is a completely different nature. You're not negotiating with like a first-time home buyer that's just trying to get into the market at the price point which is less than $1 million, which is a reflection of the average days on market that Sam pointed out. These properties, the bulk of these properties that are selling at such a fast pace are under $1 million. Mm-hmm. And that's why the average days on market is lower. But if you were to look at the luxury segment, let's say, depending on the area, like in Richmond Hill, 2 million, 2.5 million is luxury. They're not moving as fast, right? And the negotiations are completely different. It's not, a lot of them are not offer presentations, but you have to price it accurately, and you got to wait for the right buyer to come around. And so, doesn't mean that, it's not going to sell. It'll take longer to sell. And so if you just look at that number like isolate that number, average days on market, it's not a really good indicator as to how the market is doing. None of these numbers individually, if you isolate them, are a very, very good indicator as to how the market is really doing. You have to look at everything combined in order to determine what's really happening in the market. But average days on market, and there's actually two average days on markets. There is the listing and then there's the selling. Because sometimes when you aggregate, the number that Sam gave you is the aggregate, where properties went on the market, didn't sell, they terminated, they relisted on the market, and then eventually it sold. So the 24 days is the average for properties that sold after they've been even terminated or or they expired.
Just to clarify though, Treb does not count. So let's say you have a property.
They have both. They've now isolated it, and they're now giving you both stats. The one where it has sold.
Yeah.
And then they have the other one, which also takes into account if the property was listed once or twice before and how many days it was on the market then.
I'm saying that is inputted as two different data points, right? So,
yes.
So just to clarify for the people, so if you have a property, you put it on the market for 15 days, you take it back up, put the same property back up for 5 days, they count it as an entry of 5 and 15. They don't combine it and put it on as 20. They don't input it as 20.
Sorry, the second data point does. So there's two of them. There's one of it just selling. So it's put on the market today and took 5 days and then it sold. So they have that as one data point. And then the other one, they include that with the previous listings. Maybe it was listed 3 times, and all 3 times previous to that, the price was, it wasn't realistic to what the market was selling for. And so they had to do 3 price adjustments before finally sold. So the second one, the one that you mentioned at 24 days, the average incorporates all of that. So all previous listings for that same property that either expired, terminated, or they did a price change. If we just want to look at the one where it was listed and it sold, the average days on market was 17. So you can tell that, from 17 to 24, that's pretty much like that's 7 days. That's another week.
That's a week, yeah.
Right. So that tells us that some sellers or some agents are not pricing the property accurately, and so they've had to do price adjustments for it to finally sell for what the market is willing to pay.
And honestly, another thing, let me ask you, what other metrics and trends of note come to your mind that you think should be discussed?
So another one is inventory. So months of inventory. I don't have the stat right now, but months of inventory essentially, you look at a point in time how many listings are on the market, and then how many transactions you've had. And based on that, you divide the number of listings by the number of transactions, and you get the months of inventory. So if there was no new properties coming to market as of this date, it would take maybe 1.8 months, 2 months, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months to sell all of the existing inventory that's on the market. Now, if it's less than 3 days, less than 3 months, if there's less than 3 months of inventory, that's a seller's market. If there's, 3.1 to 6 months of inventory, or around 5 to 6 months, that's a balanced market. If there's 6 months or more of inventory, then that's a buyer's market. Then the buyer has the advantage in order to shop around, because there's more properties on the market than there are buyers. And so buyers can shop around, find the property that they like, and really go in and negotiate in their favor. Because in that case, it seems the sellers are more motivated to sell because they're competing with more properties on the market.
Yeah, and typically, what you have is a situation where in a buyer's market, the demand, the supply outweighs the demand. That's how you get a buyer's market, where the supply exceeds the demand.
The buyer's market?
Supply exceeds the demand.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and what you have in basic microeconomics, usually in the buyer's market, which is once again, supply exceeds demand, prices drop.
Prices typically would drop.
And that's exactly, I think, what's happening with condominiums. Now, what you have here is a 20% growth GTA-wide for all property types, right? But if you actually look at the numbers, condominiums are lagging behind, especially condo sales downtown. So not talking about condos, Richmond Hill condos for the north, east, or west, but condo sales downtown have been lagging. So although we are working with a hotter market, picking back up It's getting stronger. It's getting more friendly to the buyers and the sellers. I think it's a win-win situation for most people. The only exception to that is the lagging condo market currently occurring downtown, because you do truly have a surplus of inventory of a lot of people trying to sell at the same time. And whether the demand is there or not, to whatever degree, you do have a decrease in prices. So if I recall correctly, I believe detached increased by 19%, semi-detached increased by 17%. And these figures, I'm going off the top of my head, can be off by 1 percentage point or the other. But detached increased by 19.
Are you doing the averages across GTA?
Yes.
Okay, because I
GTA.
have them separate for 416 and 905.
No. So I'm saying GTA wide. So this is the 416, the 905, and the XYZ, whatever the hell you want to put it. GTA wide, detached increased 19, semi-detached increased 17, townhouses increased 15. I know this for a fact. Condos only increased 10. So they're lagging behind, where in previous eras and markets we saw somewhat of the inverse, I would say, where condos were the hotter commodity.
Yeah, last year I think condos definitely outpaced the rest of the property types, and that's because it was easier to purchase a condo because of the price point than other properties, and because of that lower price entry level, first-time buyers are really jumping into the market and getting into that. However, the market has changed just because of COVID, and people are more interested in freehold properties right now because people are going to be working from home. And I think people have realized that they want more space because they're going to be working from home. They want a backyard. They want maybe a home office rather than using their bedroom or dining room as their office. So that's why people are upsizing, and why the freehold market, towns, semis, and detached are now outpacing the condo market. But I think there's more at play there, especially with a lot of the investors downtown. I think, year over year in the 416 condo market hasn't done bad. It actually did still go up by about 8%. The average price is about $673,000, which is not bad for the condo market. However, if we compare July to August, the prices did dip by about 1.5%, or 1.4%. So, and I think going forward into September, October, November, I do think that the condo market is going to take probably a bigger hit because of the investors.
I'm so happy you said that, because I was not ready to argue with you, because I was on the phone. I was on the phone with my client today, and we're looking to list this property, and he's just asking me if it's the best time. I said, look, other agents will always tell you right now is the time to sell, regardless of what the facts of the case is. Mm-hmm. For you, it is the right time to sell because you need to liquidate this. But if you did not need to liquidate this, you were not in a rush, honestly, I would tell you it's not the right time to sell. Because September, and this is why I'm going to what you just said. He asked, well, will things improve in September? I said, if anything, I think the condo numbers for downtown, and I would say maybe just the city of Toronto wider.
Like North York, Yonge and Eglinton, Yonge and Sheppard,
if anything,
the downtown core especially.
It's going to get a bit worse. It's going to take a bigger hit.
So if you need to sell, this is the time to sell before it gets worse.
If you need to, because like I said, September, I think it will get a bit worse.
I don't even think September might still be too soon.
Really?
I think really we're going to see more of a price, the price is dropping more towards come November, December, January, February, because I think once the deferrals, because not everyone deferred right in March. Some people delayed April, some people delayed in May. And so now, 6 months deferral, we're going to see really the after effects after the deferrals have come to an end. We're going to see, I think, more properties come to market and the prices dropping more towards the end of the year. And any of my clients that I've asked, should I buy a condo right now? I was like, if you're not in a rush, I would wait.
And this is
a lot
where
of people were surprised to hear me say that.
Yeah.
And I told them this is what I think, and especially
wait
with
for it to
Airbnbs and people, and a lot of investors are not getting the rental money that they used to. Rents right now in the core have dropped from 1 bedrooms going for 2,300 down to 21. 2 bedrooms. One of my colleagues at the office said that she used to rent a 2-bedroom condo for I think 2,800. She had to drop it down to $2,300, right? So rents are going down, and I think some people will not be able to cover their expenses, and they're going to say, "I got to offload this property and sell it."
Reasons rents are going down, it's all related to the same concept too as well, though. COVID is on the underlying factor of it, but the same concept of the surplus of inventory. Right now, a lot of people, investors, put their properties back on the market for rent because either people migrated out of the downtown core who are renting downtown, or they were formerly Airbnb people. And I apologize if this is repeat information because I believe we talked about this in previous episodes a bit. But it's all related. Like at the end of the day, if we're talking about market stats in July,
well, yeah, this is the market we're in, so we have to touch on.
But
the
I'm saying, generally
issues.
speaking, we're gonna repeat ourselves a bit because like trends follow through into the next month, right? So, but yeah, so but this is where we should get in touch with our buyers and say, hey, if you're trying to buy right now, or if you're trying to buy right now, wait until maybe September, November. I don't know about October, maybe. I'm not quite sure, but you seem pretty confident to thinking it's going to follow through into October.
Let's put it this way. Like, I'm putting family money on the line here because my dad was interested in buying a condo and renting it now. And I said, wait. Like, I mean, I could have gone and bought him a property and made my commission. I said, wait. I'll let you know when I think the right time is to buy. And I track the market regularly. Like even during COVID, I had clients that wanted to buy. And I said, listen, I would wait until late April, to early May. And I think that'll be the lowest point. And I called those people that were interested in buying at that point. I said, listen, you want to buy, you got to pull the trigger now. And then they lingered, and the market started going up. And when I look back at the stats, that was the lowest point of when, we're in lockdown. That was the lowest point for market prices. They've all gone up since then. And that's for condos and freehold properties. However, now that we're somewhat out of this, freehold has gone up. And I think the condo market, come the winter, will go down.
Yes.
So I'm putting family money on the line. So let that, tell you whatever you want to take from it.
Yeah. And one last thing I think we should highlight, or last thing from my side, obviously you might have more things you want to talk about. Interesting fact that I didn't know what to make of, right? So last August of 2019, there were, and once again, I don't have the figures in front of me, there were about 11,000 listings and 8,000 transactions.
When?
I believe August of last year.
Okay.
Right? So a difference of 3,000, right? However, prices have gone up. Every metric in terms of GTA wide has gone up, but that gap has gotten bigger. So the ratio of transactions to listings has enlarged.
So you're saying there's fewer transactions compared to listings?
So yes.
So listings have gone up, transactions haven't gone up as much.
No. Yes, exactly. But not to a noticeable amount, but like by 1,000, I would say. Right. So I'm just curious, what would you chalk that up to? So just to be clear, every metric has gone up. This is a hotter market than it was last year, 2019, right? Mm-hmm. Same month. But I don't know what to make of that because when the discrepancy between listings and transaction increases, typically, I don't know, means that you're not listings are not being sold. It's not being converted into a transaction. So I'm curious, I didn't know what to make of it. I guess maybe it's just nothing. Maybe maybe can be nothing.
So last year there was 11,000 listings, 8,000 transactions.
Please
And-
don't quote me on that. But
Right. So let's just go with those rough numbers. But this month there was what?
I don't remember the numbers for this month, but let's just say it was like 12,000 listings. There were more listings, by the way. There was like
Right.
more listings and more transactions.
Right. But what's the difference between the two?
It's like 1,000 more difference. You get what I'm saying?
So you're saying there was, let's.
So let's just use hypothetical
Oh,
numbers.
why don't we just hold on?
Yeah. Just look it up. We're gonna look it up, and we'll be right back. So, anyways, we looked up the numbers because I didn't want to be wrong. So it was 7,000 sales for 11,000 listings last year, 2019, August. Whereas this year, 2020, August, we're looking at 10,000 sales. So just 1,000 shy of last year's total listings, but 18,000 listings. So obviously we went from a discrepancy of about 4,000 to 8,000. That discrepancy just doubled. I guess now that I think about it, the more listings you have, it brings enlarges the gap. It wouldn't just naturally enlarge the gaps. The more inventory, the less opportunity for it to be sold. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's just I guess you can chalk it up to that. That theory just came up. That hypothesis just came up to me now. I have to think about it a bit further. But because the sales from August 2019 went from 7,000 to 10,000, while the listings went from 11,000 to 18,000. So that's a listings number increased by a factor of 7,000. So naturally, maybe if you're looking at that large of an increase, it means that there's more possibilities for transactions not to be converted.
Yeah, I see how you can come to that conclusion. I think perhaps quite a few sellers are trying to ride the wave and get into the market because they know it's hot. So they want to, get in on that action, sell their homes at a high, and then and cash out and perhaps either downsize or move further out of the city in order to buy something out there that's less expensive, which in my opinion is the only thing that really makes sense, because if you're buying and selling in the same market, it's relative, right? So if everything's kind of going up by 20%, actually, if you're looking to upsize, it might actually, it's more expensive for you to do that than if you were to downsize in this market right now. However, what I think has happened is that you got to keep in mind, these are new listings. So, a lot of agents, if they're not selling in the first time, they're relisting at a lower price or maybe underpricing it and going for multiple offers on the second time around. And because of the average days being lower, the average days on market being lower, and the average price being higher, I think that sellers and agents perhaps thought at the first time they were listing, that they could get higher than what the market is really selling for. And so perhaps greed or not managing expectations and overpromising is a factor in that. And so they went to market, say for property that's worth 1.2, they listed at 1.35 or closer to 1.3. It didn't sell. They had to relist it, and then finally it sold. Or maybe they had to relist a third time. And so that's why the gap has increased. There's 8,000 new listings. But, that's once again, you're double counting a few listings, or maybe triple counting the same property. And so that's why I think there's more listings on the market than previous year. However, based on the average price and the average days on market, I don't think it will lead one to believe that it's a buyer's market.
Oh, no.
So,
no.
Well, that's what I think some people will conclude from oh, there's, the gap between the number of transactions and the number of new listings has widened. That means there's more inventory on the market. That means that buyers have more to choose from. However, when you look at the other statistics, that's why earlier I said isolating one statistic is not going to tell you anything about the market.
I said that before you, by the way, but
Did you?
in the beginning when I was talking about the days on market thing, I was saying,
Oh, yes, sorry. Handsome Sam did say that. My
Hey,
apologies.
can I have
He
a
did say
cookie?
that. I give you the credit for
May I
that.
have a cookie?
I do have cookies in the
All right,
cupboard,
that's
so
good.
I'll hook you up later. But as Sam said, isolating one statistic is by no means will that tell you what's happening in the market. When you look at everything else, I think that's probably what has happened, or what has happened in the month of August.
So those are the stats for the month of August. Do you have any closing statements? Any other key factors, trends, stats, metrics you want to point to? Or
As I mentioned, prices from July to August for condos have gone down. Actually, in the 905, prices month over month have gone up. And year over year, they've also gone up, obviously, by a substantial amount. If you want to look at all of the numbers, I have it on my Instagram, the year over year, and then in the comment section down below, or the description section, I've compared also month to month, just so you can get an idea as to what's happening month to month as well, because some people just ignore that. Now, month to month is not necessarily the biggest or the best way, because there is seasonality that you also have to factor in.
precisely, it's not seasonally adjusted
Right.
necessarily.
Right. That's why we look at stats year over year. However, given the current times, I like to see what the trend is in the market to see how it's going. And although everything is up, the condo market in the 416 has dropped month over month. And I think I've been saying this for the past couple of months, but I think the prices will continue to decline in the next few months to come. So,
And just to be clear, like we do year over year, but these are all tools at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
These methods are tools. Like you have to use different tools different ways. So not just because sometimes you do month over month, where you compare the current month to the preceding month or year over year. Sometimes you probably should use both to just get the most accurate, detailed answer and combine results. And that's just what interpreting numbers and stats requires for you to use as many approaches as possible and to get the best answer. So
you got to look at numbers from all angles. Absolutely slice and dice them as many ways as you can. However, one of the other things that I do want to touch on is that you're looking at averages for the GTA. Not even GTA, it's TREB. TREB, properties that are sold in Kitchener are also reported on TREB because they're cross-listed. Properties that are sold in, say, Barrie, which has its own real estate board, and most Barrie listings go on the Barrie board. However, the agents do cross-list them because there's a lot of people in Toronto that work with Toronto realtors that go up to Barrie and buy properties. So in order to maximize their marketing exposure, they also cross-listed on a TREB board, the Toronto board, sorry. And so those numbers are factored into our TREB numbers as well. So you can't take the averages and say, this is what's happening in all markets. That's not at all the case. You have to, when you're looking at a neighborhood that you want to buy in or sell in, you have to look at the numbers in that particular neighborhood. And in some cases, you have to compare street to street because one might be backing onto train tracks and the other one's not.
exactly.
And so that property that's not backing onto train tracks and perhaps is backing onto ravine is obviously a better street to live on than the one that's on train tracks. So you can't, unless there's nothing else to look into, then you have to then evaluate and give a value to living, having backing onto a ravine compared to backing onto train tracks. And that could be in certain neighborhoods, 100,000, 50,000, 200,000. So it's very imperative that you narrow down to the community, the street that you want to live on in order to get an accurate idea as to what's happening there and not looking at TREB average numbers to say, let's go buy or sell.
This is what I tell my clients all the time when they ask me, well, how is the market? I'm like, well, for you, it might be different for someone else. But if you want to know generally, yes, I could tell you this XYZ generally.
It's
But I was talking to a client yesterday. He's like, I heard condo prices, because he watched my video. He's like, oh, you said in your video condo prices are coming down. And when I say clients, I don't have a contract with the guy. But you get what I'm saying. Like, I say yes. But for you, knowing where your condo is, the building your condo is, probably is good time for you to sell if you want to sell, right? So these are all different. Like, yeah, I always tell them, look, out breaking down by community, by street. And the only time I could see it being an added benefit to have a property next to a train track versus one next to a ravine is if you're trying to run away from your wife, which a lot of people try to do. But
skip time.
I used to actually have this client, and she was adamant that her house could be sold for like 2.5, and she was showing me other properties, and she'd be like, look at this, and I would say, yes, everything is the same except your property is literally next to a graveyard. So that really does affect the value. You have to look at it like that too.
Let me guess, C7?
Sorry, what?
C7?
Oh, yes. I don't know why I'm laughing, but we would know what we're talking
know
about.
exactly what you're talking about.
Slumlord.
But one other thing I want to say about condos. A lot of people are investing in condos, pre-construction. And I'm not against pre-construction investing. I think there's a lot of good opportunities out there, and you can make pretty good money on some pre-construction developments, especially if you don't have the money up front. However, if you have the money up front, once again, depending on the development, it might still be a better purchase than resale. But I think if you're looking to invest in condos, wait until the end of the year, because I think that's going to be a better buy than a pre-construction development around the city. Because when you compare price per square foot, at the end of this year, you're going to have a much better price in the resale market than you will in a pre-construction market. Pre-construction right now, in some areas in Toronto are $1,200, $1,100, $1,300 per square foot, whereas in this resale
$1,300. You mean like outside of city of Toronto, or like, sorry, were you talking about GTA 1,300?
No, in the core.
Oh,
in the
okay.
Core. But I was at a pre-construction event yesterday, and I don't want to name names or anything, but there was this one condo that's coming to market this weekend, and they're going to start selling. They had sample floor plans that were, I think around 480 square feet for one bedroom. And they said the price is between the high fours to the low nines. High fours to the low fives. Sorry. So when I thought about that, I was like, that's between $900 to maybe $1,100 a square foot. And this wasn't in the core. I was like, what the hell? That's in my opinion, I think that's way too much, especially since you're not in the core. However, I think the project will sell out. It is a very attractive project. I haven't looked at all of the prices yet, but just based on what I heard, I think right now I'd rather buy resale, because I can probably pick something up in the 700 range per square foot. And that right there is $300-$400.
When it comes down to it, I would say on the aggregate, if you can afford to buy a resale, and if you want to buy a resale, you should probably buy a resale just anytime. Even if prices are for end users, this is different, right? For end users, because thing about pre-con is, although a lot of people who necessarily don't have the money for resale, on average, I would say, like, this is once again a general statement here, but people who don't have the money for resale, they don't understand that, yes, you're getting it possibly cheaper, and most likely cheaper pre-con, but you have to pay potentially 4 years of rent in the meantime, and you have to take that into account as well, right?
Into your overall expenses, for sure. There's a lot of advantages to buying pre-construction, and like I said, I've purchased pre-construction for clients. I've helped them, and I'm not here bashing pre-construction. I just think that given the current time and what's happening in the resale condo market, I think it can be better purchase. May not be, but it can be, depending on, once again, the area. Price per square foot, I think you're going to get a better deal. And you're buying something that exists, so you can go check it out. You can see it. Once again, buying on paper is not the same. Sometimes you walk into something after you've purchased it on paper and you're like, oh, this is what I purchased? And some people are surprised. However, and even for investors, you can get rental income right now, right?
You can probably get rental income from the people who bought a pre-con, need to rent for 4 years in the meantime. Anyways, that's today's episode. It's going to be a short one today. I have to go to a meeting. And by meeting, I'm going to a dance club right now, actually.
Oh,
so
3 in the afternoon on
3
Friday.
in the afternoon. No, I'm kidding.
They must be serving up
yeah, exactly.
something special.
Yeah. Well, the entertainment of the day at 3 o'clock is not good, but much better.
It's usually better in the evenings.
Yeah, usually better in the evenings. I'm pretty sure I would probably recognize a couple of them from my office. But anyway, times are tough for some people. But anyways,
no comment. I don't know any of them. I don't frequent those places.
Where can they find you, Ali?
They can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think I have a Twitter account, although I think it's tied to my Facebook account. I don't even know. I'm not. My main thing is Instagram, and then my number's down below. Our office address is down below. I also have a YouTube account, although I'm not as active as Handsome Sam, but I do post videos, usually market updates, which reminds me I got to do this month. I'll get around to that. But the most important information you need is down below. Where can they find you, my friend?
Same thing down below. SaberiSixRealEstate on Instagram. SaberiSixRealEstate@gmail.com. That's my email. My office is Remax Realtron. The address and the number down below. Furthermore, SaberiSixRealEstate everywhere. On YouTube as well.
Even at nightclubs, day clubs.
Well, never mind. I was about to say something I'm not going to say. But, thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, rate, and review, and stay in touch.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Cheers.